To be honest, if I hear someone using jargon, I'm just like, you dick. Like, come on.
Hello and welcome to No Grey Suits, the podcast. I'm your host, Anastasia, and this is a place for people who have escaped corporate to do their own thing, where we'll talk marketing, video, social media, business, and chat with other business owners about their journeys. It's a bit random, sometimes super practical, sometimes plain old entertainment. Hello and welcome back to No Grey Suits, the podcast. Today I am chatting to the wonderful Kylie from Creo Wealth. Kylie and I have known each other for quite a long time now, since my broking days. So really happy to be chatting to Kylie today, and I will let her tell you what her business does.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Hi, Anastasia. Thank you so much for having me on. And yes, we have known each other for a while. So our business, Creo Wealth, we are financial advisors. So we are trying very hard, one client at a time, to make the age pension from Centrelink obsolete. So we would love everybody to be self-funded retirees because you have a lot more freedom. So we do that through superannuation, investing, minimizing tax strategies, things like that. Just ways to work the system legally. So pretty much that's what we do.
Awesome. I like the sound of that. And, you know, the pensions, I honestly think that by the time I retire, the pension's going to be either very small, very minuscule, or not around at all anymore. So it's definitely important work that you're doing there.
It potentially, I mean, it is very small as it is now. So if you look at the figures, it a very tiny little sum of money. So, and the problem is if you don't know what you're spending now, then if you think that's enough in retirement, then good luck to you. So, yeah. If you have the penchant for shoes that I do, it is definitely not going to be enough.
I was going to say I'm not so much a shoe person, but then I remembered just how many I do have. So maybe I am more of a shoe person than I realised. And I remember the 3 new pair I got last week.
Well, if we're friends, you've got to like shoes.
And yes, we are friends. But one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the podcast today is that pretty much since I've known you, you've been in the financial planning business. And financial planning, just like when I was in mortgage broking, these finance and money-based industries can be really, really boring and bland. People don't want to talk about it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to think about it. But when they do, they tend to picture the typical old school bankers and the grey suits. It's the grey suits. So it's exactly where I've come from, is that world of, almost outdated, stereotypical corporate business banking finance. And for a lot of people, that image that they have in their mind of the people in the industry, the personalities in the industry, it makes it inaccessible because it's overwhelming. It's definitely not relatable. It's not personable. And it is about as far from friendly as you can get. And ever since I've known you, you and the team there at Creo have done a really good job of breaking that down and talking to people as if they're people and showing that you are people and showing that money stuff doesn't have to be just for the guys in the grey suits sitting at the top of, the towers in the city. Money talk and being educated about money is for everyone.
Absolutely.
And should be for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not taught it in school.
No.
Definitely something that I've always mused about there.
Don't even start me on that.
What I wanted to talk to you about first there is, why have you gone that way? Why haven't you stuck with the way it's always been done? Why did you choose to do it a little bit differently?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I mean, you know me well, and you know that I definitely don't wear grey. Well, I do sometimes. So it's really interesting because I work for places like Deutsche Bank, Merrill Lynch, and you always felt like you had to be somebody that you weren't. You could never really be authentically yourself, because if you weren't that stuffy suit type and didn't try and fit in specifically with the boys club, then you stood out like dare I say it, dog's balls. So, you kind of had to conform and not be yourself because, back then if you swore as a woman, if you did certain things, and probably still now in that industry, if you did things, swore, and if you had a good time at a party, you were branded certain things, and you just couldn't be yourself. So when Anthony and I started Creo Wealth, and also we had bosses that were, and we have, well, they were young children at one point, they're now 24 and 21, but we know what it's like, to get calls from school to say kids are sick, or from daycare, kids are sick. The minute they sneeze, they're ringing you saying, come and get them. So we know what that's like. And they would always call me. But at that point, Anthony had the more flexible job. So I'd be telling them, like, call the father. And at one point, we had to say to them, call him first because I can't get there. Anyway, so the point is, when we started Creo Wealth, we wanted to be everything that the industry wasn't. And we wanted to be a family first business. So, and to be authentically ourselves, because when you start a business, you go and you do lots of seminars and business building things and the one thing that I was always hearing is be authentically yourself, because it is so hard to be someone else because you're you, right? And you're not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. Just go to a different bar or coffee shop if you don't like me. I don't care. Your opinion of me is none of my business. I don't give a shit. So we just said, you know what, let's just be us. We're a couple in the business, so we share lots of our couple stuff. People know us as a couple, so we are literally an open book. We love to share everything because we have been there and done that. Like, yes, we were born into a little bit of privilege, or maybe Anthony was. So, we've had help along the way, but, we do know what it's like to be parents with young children and starting up a business. So it was really important to us to just be ourselves, because honestly, it's too much energy to be someone else. I can't, it's so exhausting. And we expect that from our team as well. It's like, just be yourself, be authentically you, and you'll fit right in. That's no problem.
Well, that's it. And I also find that if you don't like me, that's fine. But what I find with businesses is when the people in the business are being themselves and are showing up without the mask, they tend to attract people that they actually enjoy working with and repel people that they don't enjoy working with. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone.
Exactly. And you're always going to have people that don't like you. But it's, there's a lot of people I don't like, especially hitting menopause. I pretty much don't like anyone.
I feel very privileged then that you're still talking to me.
But, it's, anyone that knows me knows that I may not say it, but my face tells it. So if I don't actually tell you I don't like you, my face will tell you. But no, in all seriousness, I can't be anyone but me. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, maybe, but not now.
Yeah, I do think it's also part of when you do start a business, you've got so much else on you and so much else running through your head that remembering to put the mask on. I find, for you guys in how you come across and in your marketing and the videos that you do, I mean, some of the videos that you guys have done have been hilarious. And I find that for a lot of people, seeing some personality from an industry that is typically completely void of emotion and personality, it makes it more accessible. It makes it easier for people to go, okay, I want to learn from these guys, or I want to actually reach out because they're not intimidating, they're not overwhelming, and they speak real language instead of just jargonese, as I like to say.
Jargonese, I love it.
Jargonese. Talking in jargon might make you sound smart, but it doesn't actually work for anyone because, especially online, people aren't showing up online. They're not scrolling on their phone to learn new words for the most part.
No.
And certainly not new words that have nothing to do with their daily lives. Then they don't want to use that kind of brain power.
No.
If they're going to learn something, they need it to be easy to understand, easy to digest, because their brain's probably already all used up with all of the stuff they had to do with work and kids and family and
Exactly.
everything else that has to be done.
Exactly. And to be honest, if I hear someone using jargon, and I've got to be honest, it's usually men that are using the big words, I'm just like, you dick. Like, come on. Oh, seriously. Like, stop it. Explain it to people like they're a 2-year-old. That's what they, that's what they need. And I think also too that, and as you know, being from a past broking life, there's so much compliance in the industry. It's like, I feel like sometimes our compliance team want to know when we farm. It's like they just want to know everything. It's painful. So I feel like sometimes people feel like they can't be themselves because of all of that kind of red tape that we have, but I mean, you can do it in a way that's still authentic to you and still sticks to the compliance.
I actually think it's almost better for compliance,
Yeah.
especially talking in plain terms, because a huge part of compliance is making sure the customer understands what they're getting themselves into.
Exactly.
And if you're talking in a whole heap of jargonese, they're switching off and they're just agreeing to whatever you're saying, basically to make you shut up. I'll tick the boxes saying I understand all of this, but do they really? Chances are no in most cases.
Yeah, chances are.
And it doesn't matter how well educated they are. You can have a doctor, a medical doctor come in, they don't know shit about finance.
No, they don't.
They're incredibly intelligent. They're incredibly well educated. But if you start spouting off a whole heap of jargon and terms that they don't know because it's not part of their daily life, they're not going to understand it.
No.
So for me, I actually think that talking to people as if they're people and explaining things in a way that anybody can understand it is actually more compliant than not.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be an advisor, so I do have to be extra careful what I can say. Well, actually, anybody has to be careful what they say because it can't be construed as advice or, we can't name funds or do anything like that. But you can still be authentic and you can still educate. Yeah. And you can still attract your tribe, like your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So, So if somebody can, and that people do business with people they like. So, and that's what we found, just being ourselves. And we get so many people come across our socials or our website. And they even say to us, we love that it's actually photos of you guys on the website and not stock photos. We've even had peers, like other advisors that we know, send us messages to say, oh my God, I love your socials. So it's resonating with other advisors. So why the fuck aren't they doing it? Like, why aren't they, if they love our socials, why aren't they doing it too? Well, probably because they don't have the time.
Well, there's a little bit of fear of stepping outside of what's always been done.
Yes.
Especially in this industry, because if you worked in any of the banks or in any of the institutions, if you do step outside the lines, you're brought back in very quickly.
Yes.
Because that's how they work.
Yes.
That's how those organizations work.
Yeah.
And even when you step out into your own business, it can actually be really, really tough. And when I was a broker, I fell into this as well. It can be really tough to step out of those lines without the invisible voice now saying to you, no, it's always been done this way. It has to be done this way. You need to do it how everybody else has always done it. Because you've been so used to that voice being there for so long that you just continue doing it. It takes guts to step out and do things a little bit differently.
Absolutely.
And some people aren't going to like it, but they're not your people anyway.
Exactly. I agree.
I think as an industry, to become, for the finance industry, I still love the finance industry as a whole, but to become something that people aren't intimidated by, I think some of those old ways do have to go. And it takes people like you guys to have the balls to step out and say, no, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. And as you've said, a happy money story is for everyone.
Absolutely.
Not just for the rich guys in the grey suits at the top of the house.
Exactly. But going back to having the guts to come out and do it, I mean, it did take us a little while to find our groove. We knew that we always wanted to, kind of do things a little differently to the industry standard. And it was only that going to a lot of networking events, joining chambers and finding your business people, like finding the people that you connect with that also run business. I think that's really important. You've got to find people, because what do they say? You're the sum of the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with or something. So I really try to associate with people that I was drawn to naturally. There's lots of other people I follow on social media that I love chatting to, people that run our ads and do things like that. It's like, do business with people that you connect with, people that have the same kind of values as you. And I don't think you can go wrong.
It brings it out in you.
Exactly. But I mean, if you want to be the stuffy person in the great suit, that's fantastic. Do it with confidence. I feel like the last couple of years, we've finally really stepped into our groove. I mean, we've actually coming up to our 10-year anniversary next year for the business, not for me. We're well past that. It did take us a long time, but just do it. That's what I would say to anyone.
I think it's a work in progress always.
Aren't we always a work in progress, though? I'm 53, I think.
I'm laughing because I did that this week. It was my birthday this week, and someone said, "How old are you turning?" And I went, 30.
Yeah, I actually just stopped then and I thought, is it 2024? Yeah, I'm 53. I think you get to a certain point. And do you know what? Owning that as well in your business, I feel like we get a lot of clients that tell us that they love our socials. They love that Anthony and I are an open book. Clients will come in and we'll chat to them. I'll chat to them about stuff. And because a lot of our clients are older, they'll give me some tips on menopause and things to do. And like it. It's really nice. Our clients really appreciate that. They appreciate that we're honest and open with them.
Exactly. And I think it's even more important. I mean, people sort of think that this whole authenticity thing is a new thing. It's not.
No.
Because you're dealing with older people a lot of the time. And I actually find that being yourself and allowing them to connect to you on a more personal level, especially with dealing with some older people who are already a lot of the time a little bit overwhelmed with all the tech and with how to deal with things like Centrelink and the paperwork and all of the rest of it, being able to have that personal connection with people, I think it makes their lives a lot easier as well. It helps them trust you. It helps them feel comfortable and confident, and therefore they have a bit more clarity and they're able to make better decisions.
Absolutely.
And in the finance world, that is super important, because if somebody's making decisions just because they're feeling and overwhelmed, they're not the right decisions. But if they're feeling comfortable because they are feeling like you've made a connection with them and they know that you're telling them things that are right for them, they're going to make better decisions.
That's it.
So there's just far too many things that it comes back to, really, doesn't it? Being yourself and showing some personality in business, taking off that mask. It helps in so many ways.
Yes, absolutely. I also think it's important too, because as advisors, having a financial advising business, I think it's important that we share our wealth journey as well. So we also do that. It's important for clients and potential clients and anybody that we market to know that we are actually on a wealth journey as well, and that we're doing our best to not have to need the pension, the age pension. And I can assure you we won't need the age pension. So we're in a good spot. We always said that we wanted to help our boys when the time came, and we're able to do that. So we're really grateful that we've been able to build that. But I think it's really important that whatever business you're in, that you practice what you preach, kind of thing. And I think it's important that people know that you practice what you preach, because, I'm not going to go to a plumber that's got leaking toilet. Do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of go to someone with a social presence if you want them to do your socials, right? Like you have a great presence, you have great reels and stuff. So, someone's going to connect with that. It's like, okay, she's doing what she's telling us to do. So I personally want to do business with somebody that's doing the do. If they can't put the money where their mouth is, mouth on their money. What?
That's it. Money where the mouth is.
It. It's not your mouth where the money is. No. Hey, I don't do it.
Yeah.
No judgment. Pay your taxes. I don't care what you do.
I was listening to somebody the other day at an awards night that I went to, and it's actually Susan Templeton.
Oh, yeah.
her first business with her first business partner, we've gone completely off track, but it's actually a funny story. They moved into an office in King's Cross and her husband did some research. This is back in the 80s, I think. And her husband did some research and found out that the office that she moved into used to be a brothel back in, like, with one of the wars. I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, wow.
And he was like, well, that's amazing because, you know, we're women and we're creating a business that empowers other women. They were women and they created a business that empowered themselves to have their own money. So,
Yeah.
for world's oldest profession, but also
Yeah.
showed a little bit of tenacity and business sense from women.
Absolutely. So here's a true story for you. So last year, Anthony, was it last year? The year before? I don't know. A year or so ago, we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. So we went to Cuba and Mexico. And in Cuba, one of the places we went to, it was not one of the towns that was known for women during one of the wars or one of the revolutions. And, you know, they earned money to feed the family by prostitution. And they literally kept the town running, these women that were working as they, you know, were thriving and earning money because world's oldest profession. So they, I want to say erected, but pardon the pun, a monument in the square. It's the square of this town for the women. And it was literally a woman sitting on top of a rooster with a fork in her hand.
If that's not symbolic, I don't know what is.
And when the tour guide was telling us, I'm like, literally a woman riding a... Yeah, because they kept the town running. Hey,
Well, yeah.
power to you. Go.
I think it just shows as well that, you know, as much as when we're girls, sometimes, you know, we're told we can't do, especially when it comes to business or, you know, getting too big for our boots or being too loud or being too this, being too that. You know what? Us women, we've always found ways to do what needs to be done.
Yes, we do. Most of the time, we do it quietly. We just do it. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. You know, we've been quiet for too long. And I think a lot of men don't realise what we actually do, you know.
And I think it's great. You know, like I say, I went to an awards night the other day and it was a women's business awards night. And seeing how many women are breaking out of that now and are breaking the stereotypes and are coming out and saying, you know what, no, I'm bloody fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this and I get the job done.
Absolutely.
It was so good to see.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, even 10, 20 years ago, we wouldn't see that.
Oh,
to that extent.
Yeah, no way. I mean, when I was younger, I was not legally adopted, but I grew up with my aunt, my birth mother. I went to live with her sister. I lived with her sister since I was 10 days old. And I was always told, among other things, that, you know, just marry a rich man. Marry a rich man, you know. So, you know, that's kind of what I was told. I mean, I grew up in housing commission. It would, you know, I was never kind of taught money, and that's why when you mentioned the schools, we're not taught it. Maybe if I'd had some sort of, like in the lower socioeconomic areas, they need to have a very basic lesson on taxes and earning money. You're not going to be able to live on the dollar job seeker or whatever, and that it's okay to want more, because I never thought that I could, and I was working a good job. I was earning a pretty good salary for that back then. I mean, I started working with ANZ Custodian Services in 1986, you know, and I was earning a pretty good wage. That was, when were you born? Okay, I saw that look. Stop. I don't want to know when you were born. Shut up.
86.
So anyway, I was, okay, to my credit, I was 16. So I left school in year 10. Like I grew up in Claymore, Villawood, you know, kind of all those areas where it's Harvard Commission. Yeah. And so, I mean, you know, and my aunt's older daughter, you know, was a heroin addict. So I kind of lived with that in the home as well. So I never really thought there'd be anything else out there for me. I just kind of didn't even think to do anything. And it's just, I started working, and then
that's how people get stuck in the cycle.
Exactly. And it's only that I started working and I kind of met made friends with some people that I worked with, and they kind of knew my story, that kind of, I gravitated to them because they were kind of giving me confidence to speak up against the system and that I've been brought up in. So, I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. And, you do see it time and time again. And being from, having worked in a financial service myself, I've seen it through other people as well. And people do get stuck in that mindset. And that's the whole money mindset thing, isn't it?
Yep.
I can't be or do more.
Yeah.
And, there's a whole slew of reasons around that.
God,
there's
yeah.
guilt, there's, can't make more money than my parents did because then, that means that they didn't do well enough. And, there are a whole heap of reasons why.
Yeah.
But I think a little bit of education can go a really long way. And like you say, you were lucky because you found some people that boosted your confidence and showed you what could.
Yeah.
And helped you just take those first couple of steps.
Yeah.
But I do think that our education system or our system does need to actually foster that within itself.
Oh, wow.
For all kids.
Look, I appreciate the education system we've got and to the teachers and everything, no disrespect, but it's got to change because I know our younger son, Charlie, he's 21, and I won't share too much because he doesn't like sharing too much of his personal stuff. But, he only went to year 10, he left and did apprenticeships and stuff, but the school system was not matched to his personality. He is a real rebel and he questions everything, the system, the patriarchy, like everything. He's like, he's a little bit over the top. He thinks everyone's a spy, but sometimes I don't know if he's joking or not, but he's a good kid. I think sometimes he just does it to get a rise out of me, but he questions everything. But the one thing he always questioned was the work he was the stuff he was learning at school. He's like, what the fuck? Like, this what is? What am I going to use this for, Mum? Like, seriously, I'm not going to use this. Why am I learning this? And even now he says, what you and Dad taught me about money and saving and investing and everything, I should have been taught at school. Like, I should have been taught this at school, and it's the basics, So, and we need to get something out there into the school system, like that, or something. I've seen people go out and do talks and stuff, and it's at private schools on the North Shore. Like, maybe they do need help, but I'm telling you now, I don't think they need it as much as the, public schools out, way out west, So some things need to change. Something needs to happen.
I was working for a broker's office a few years ago, and we had a new starter. He was a lovely kid, and it was his first full-time job out of school. He'd had other, part-time jobs, as we all do, retail or whatever. And I was getting him to fill in his employment forms, the standard ones, the ATO forms, all the rest. So one of them, and he goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What's superannuation?" And I'm talking, this is a 20-year-old kid.
Yeah, wow.
And he had no idea what superannuation was. Now, in Australia, superannuation is compulsory. It's everywhere. It's part of our financial system. It's a 20-year-old should have known at least what it was. Even if not how it worked, but at least what it was.
Absolutely.
So, that shocked me, and that stayed with me. That was a good 10, 12 years ago now, and that has always stayed with me. His face when he said that, and then he got all sort of embarrassed about not knowing it, but it wasn't his fault that he didn't know it.
No, of course not.
It's our education system not teaching those basics.
Exactly.
But he had no idea what superannuation was.
Exactly. Or, even employers. That could even be on employers, to educate young kids that are coming in as new starters. All it is a basic video. There's so much information out there, though. Money Smart has got some good information out there. That's that is a good website because obviously it's run by the government. So I direct anybody to there if they've got any questions about anything. But we
it's fact checked.
Yeah, we get a lot of people inquiring on things and asking questions, and always direct them to the Money Smart site. It's a really good site. It's got lots of planners and budgeting tools on there. So, yeah, as a basic thing. And I mean, that's the basic stuff that they could be teaching in schools. They really should.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I remember even doing commerce, and yet even in commerce, they didn't teach us this. They taught us stats.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I mean, and I still love, a good stats session. But they didn't teach us the reality of, what real tax is about
No.
and how to. I still get confused filling out a tax return. And I was a mortgage broker. I had to read them for a living. I still get confused filling my own out.
Obviously, I outsource all of that now. I don't do that. But true story, actually. So when I met Anthony, I met Anthony when I was working at HSBC. I was about 24, 25. I had not done tax returns for, actually, I don't even think I'd ever done any tax returns. And I started work when I was 16.
Yeah, that's an oops.
Yeah. When I met Anthony, he obviously had his shit together, and I'd been working all these years, had not a thing to show for it, except a few nights out partying. Yep. I did leave home at 17, kicked out kind of. But anyway, that's another story. When I met Anthony, I was like, God, this guy's got his shit together, man. Why does he like me? What the hell? So we started dating, and we'd been together a while, and then he suggested we go on this holiday to Europe together. And I'm like, how the fuck am I going to slave for a holiday to Europe? Like, come on. But he sat down and he helped me, and I thought, okay, this guy's serious. I was so embarrassed about my financial situation, as so many people are. I was starting to realize, because he was being an influence on me with money and everything. So I was starting to realize that really I'd wasted all these years, and I was so embarrassed that I had nothing to show for anything. And then I finally confided in him about no tax returns. I mean, I was up to my eyeballs in debt as well. So I thought I'll break it to him bit by bit. But do you know what?
Fair.
To his credit, I told him, we sat down, we worked out a plan. A lot of people then I think, he took control of my money, but he didn't take control of bank accounts. But he sort of said, okay, this week, this is what we're paying with the paycheck. He really got me organised, got all my tax returns on. I'm not joking. I've never seen a Mediterranean Maltese man turn blue. Oh my God, I think I had about superannuation funds as well. So, I'm very pleased to say I don't have 6 now. But yeah, so he helped me get all of that together. So, and that I think is why I'm such an advocate for getting help. And that is why I just encourage everyone to try and get help. It doesn't have to be us, any financial advisor, or anybody that knows something about money. But if it starts to get too tricky, try and seek financial help, or like professional help, because now with all the influence and everything out there, it's really hard to get caught up in some hype. So if you're going to take any advice, go to, like Money Smart or I mean, we offer the free 15-minute chat or whatever, but a lot of advisors offer that. And ask around friends, Don't be ashamed. Ask friends, what did you do? Have you got your super organised? Who are you with? Find out what you're invested in, stuff like that.
Well, that's it. It's been a taboo subject.
Just ask.
Yeah. I think taking that first step to ask anybody around you for help. It's like going to the doctor, really. We go to the doctor when we've got a question, and we're not, sometimes we're embarrassed about that, but, we're typically not embarrassed to go to the doctor and say, why am I getting headaches?
Yes.
Why be embarrassed to go to a professional in the finance world and say, I don't know enough?
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Yes. Well, I can guarantee you one thing, Anastasia. It's less embarrassing than a pap smear.
Yep. I'll agree.
Yeah. Less embarrassing.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. Less embarrassing. Yeah. I mean, a man wouldn't know what that is, but,
And, I think we've come full circle right back to making these sort of topics not just interesting, not just fun, but making them accessible.
Exactly.
To the everyday person.
Yeah.
And breaking down some of those barriers and breaking some of those stereotypes and making finance not taboo and not scary and not something that is relegated to just a few people.
Mm-hmm.
We all have to have money to live. Let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes too, people have a disgust with having too much wealth. Like, it's okay to be wealthy, but don't talk about it or don't. I'm seeing it now with that guy that the block, he bought all of the places. Adrian Patelli, I think. Anyway,
Yes, and he did a thing
gave away
at Coles and Woolies.
$150,000 of groceries. And there's people out there begging him for doing that, saying, it's like, mate, you gave away $150,000 worth of groceries. Who gives a shit what it's for? He's just helped a bunch of people. In a cost of living crisis, mate. Hats off to him. I wish I had 150 grand to go out and help people with, so
Yeah.
I think there's also that thing as well, tall poppy syndrome. If you're too successful, it's kind of taboo as well, but screw them. Screw the haters. And I'm telling you now, that age pension is not going to be enough if it is around by the time you get to it. Because, let's face it, the superannuation system is politicized. It's always a topic coming up to elections and everything. They are always wanting to cut something from the retirees. I think last time it was the franking credits and the aged care. They've just changed some of the aged care stuff now. So it's all of that system is highly politicized. So who knows in 10 years what's going to happen to the system.
Well, that's it.
Exactly. So do whatever you're comfortable with investing. I don't care if it's property, but just do something that's tried and tested. And realize that if you're doing something that's not, it's a higher risk. Know what kind of risk you're willing to take. If you're not much of a risk taker, then I don't know why you're investing in crypto. People say, I don't like taking risks, but I spent $2,000 on crypto. And it's like, well, okay, you do like taking risks, actually.
Yeah, well, you do with money anyway.
You do with money.
But yeah, I think making these topics accessible, getting them out into the world, talking about them and having an understanding, educating people. I think you guys are doing really good work in that space. And you've got your Facebook group and your podcast.
Yes.
So both of which are called The Money Brew.
Yes.
With Creo Wealth that people can find. And I'll put them in the show notes as well. Both of those are all about bringing this stuff into the light. It's about having real conversations, talking in words that people understand rather than jargonese. And making money something that's just an everyday thing to talk about because it's an everyday thing we have to have.
Well, what am I saying? Money makes the world go round.
Thank you very much for coming on and thank you for doing exactly what you do, which is bringing those money conversations to the regular people and opening up those doors that people might think are closed to them because they don't fit a stereotype. So I think you guys are doing amazing work with that. And I'm sure your clients say the same as well. If you'd like to leave the listeners with one tip, what would it be?
One tip? Just one. Just take the lead and ask questions and at least know where your superannuation is. Especially if you're employed, find out where your superannuation is and call the fund and find out all the details, especially if you've got insurance. Just get to know your superannuation. Start a love affair with it. That's my one tip. And if you're self-employed, if you're not paying yourself super, why? I love how you're laughing at that. Just do something. Right. Yeah.
I'm laughing at that because that's actually one thing that I do.
Good.
And I deliberately set it up to make it easy for myself because most of my banking is with the same places where my super is, not because it's the best super fund out there, but it's because I'm more likely to transfer it there if I can see it.
Okay, good. That's it. You're going to do what works for you. But yeah, that's my one tip. Get to know your super.
Perfect. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you very much. I stopped the recording there because I think we both cracked up laughing. But thank you very much for anybody who has listened. Have a great day. Take care.